Hey gang, how you doing? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks for joining me. In today's video, we are going to paint an Ocelot cat. And this was actually a suggestion from one of my viewers. So if you want me to paint something in the future, leave a comment and I will put that into my production list as I'm making videos. So I do read your comments. I do try to reply to everybody. But your feedback's important. So subscribe to my channel, leave comments, and help me move forward and grow as this channel continues to grow. So thanks. So in this video and all my videos, what you'll see in the description box below, one of the first links is a link to a supply kit. And that supply kit is everything that you need to create this particular painting. All your paints, your brushes, your surfaces, and even the traceables to get that initial image on your canvas. So check that out, acquire what you need to, and then move on to the next step. And the next part, what you'll see is there's a link below to a traceable. And if you're not familiar with traceables, I use them in quite a few of my videos because it is really good for beginner and first-time painters. But your traceable is your way to get that initial image or composition on your canvas before you start painting. And it's an excellent tool to utilize for my beginner painters. So do check that out. And there is a video on how to transfer your traceable. So you'll check that out too. There should be a link popping up on the video for that. But again, just a nice way to take out some of the difficulties of beginning a painting. As you paint today, and with all my videos, I want you to relax. It's okay. You have permission to paint outside the lines. You have permission to get sloppy. Just relax. You will notice that while you're painting, you're going to forget that the rest of the world's out there and you're going to be so focused on your painting. And that's really the joy and the escape of being creative. Kind of enough talking right now. Let's go ahead and get started painting. All right, I hope you guys are excited to paint. The Ocelot Cat's going to be really kind of a fun one. It's got some good colors. So head on over to where you have your setup and turn on your favorite music just to make it more comfortable for you. And as always, take your progress pictures today. So once you've got your traceable transferred onto your surface, we're going to take the small pointy brush and black paint, and we're going to be outlining all those lines again. And the purpose of this is for you to get kind of comfortable with the pressure of your brush. And also it kind of, gets that composition on our canvas and makes it a little bit easier for you to see while you're painting. As you're doing this, if some of your lines are really thick, some are thinner, if maybe you've got the texture of the canvas showing through, don't stress too much about that. We will repeat this step at the end of the painting. So right now, again, I just want this to be good practice for you as you get comfortable with the brush. And you are going to be going in and filling in a lot of the spots on the cat today, a lot of the stripes that are kind of on the edge of the neck and the edge of the ears. And you can reference your traceable to see where you'll be filling in all the black. One of the things that you're probably noticing, is very obvious with this painting, that there is a ghost painting underneath. This panel I had used for another painting and wanted to not keep that painting and reuse the panel. So I re-gessoed it so I could have a kind of white surface and then can put a new painting on top of that. So as you're painting and kind of in the early stages, I recommend that you utilize this technique of reusing panels so that way you can just get more practice and you don't have to keep purchasing canvases or panels and stuff as often, because you are going to get better as you practice more. So some of our beginning paintings, we look back on and really realize how much that we have learned after a couple of years of painting. So that's why practice panels are really a nice tool to use, so that way you can get more practice. All right, so here as you're filling in even the stripes and the dots, again, just kind of play with the pressure of your brush. If you go outside the lines or make some of these spots a little bit bigger or a different shape than what we have here, completely okay, because every animal does have a unique pattern of spots. And for my first time painters, if you find that you're holding your breath right now or earlier or even later on, just kind of laugh at yourself and take a deep breath. When we're doing something new for the first time, we do tend to kind of hold our breath without realizing it. So here I'm actually adding a few extra spots. So feel free to utilize the pause feature and see where I added them or add more of your own. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, take your progress picture, and we're going to move into the background. And on this one, I am using the small flat brush, and we're going to be mixing yellow and green. And you can kind of see that I didn't thoroughly mix the yellow and the green. It's kind of nice to just grab a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and as we apply it to our background, our brush kind of mixes it as we put it on the canvas. So kind of play with that. And here I'm using rather kind of expressive brush strokes. Kind of little X marks or longer dash marks. Kind of indicating that we've got some grass or jungle behind our cat. Now, if you are using the Liquitex Basics paint like I recommended, you will find that some of your colors are a little more transparent. So to get kind of an opaque coverage, just apply your paint a little bit thicker. Don't put any water on your brush. And you are going to kind of glob it on there, kind of like icing a cake. You know, you're going to put enough pigment on there and then just kind of move your brush on there. And you'll realize that the pressure of your brush, the harder you push your brush against the canvas, the more your brush strokes show up. So for your more transparent colors, apply a little bit of that thick glob of paint on there and then use a light pressure with your brush to go over it to kind of smooth it out. And you can also do a second coat, a second layer of paint on top of some of your more transparent colors. And when we get into the raw sienna color for our cat today, we will actually be putting 2 coats of that on there because I wanted it thicker. So again, depending on what kind of brand of paint you're using, you may run into some different troubleshooting things that you have to figure out and adjust to get the effects that you're looking for. When you are in the neighborhood to purchase your next round of paint, consider moving up to the soft body acrylics. I do like the Liquitex ones, but Golden is also another really nice brand. And they have a bit more of a buttery and kind of creamy consistency and texture. It's actually quite nice to kind of move it around the canvas. And it's a little bit thicker, a little more opaque. So you would need less coats or less effort to cover up some space. So as you find that you're getting more and more enjoyment out of painting, step up with each color into a nicer consistency of paint and move more into the artist grade paints. All right. So the background's coming along nicely, some kind of intense greens in there, and going back in with some yellow and just moving my brush back and forth as we blend everything. And here you can see I'm putting kind of a second layer on there, and it is a bit more opaque. So again, just play with your background. Take a deep breath. Smile at yourself. You're doing a good job. And if you happen to overlap your black lines, that's okay. If you want a little bit of a darker shade of green, you can add a touch of blue to your green, and that makes a really nice color. Or you can even add a small amount of black if you want more shadows in your background. All right, so yeah, keep adding more paint. You'll see me do that when we get into the colors of our cat. All right, so take your progress photo, and we're going to start moving into the shades of our cat here. And we're going to actually start with our lightest color first and work backwards. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take white plus a little bit of raw sienna, going for a very light raw sienna color. All right, so using that small flat brush, we're going to be putting some of this color on the chin and on the chest of our cat, kind of the fluff, the lightest areas of our Ocelot cat today. And as you're moving the brush, if you want to kind of think that that each brush stroke is like a strand of fur, so you kind of move your brush in the direction that the fur would be going. Kind of keeps a good flow on your painting. And the Ocelot cats are actually rather short-haired, so they don't have a whole lot of fluff. They do have a little bit of fluff on their chest, and you'll see that we overlap the colors, the fluff on the chest. We overlap it on the background when we get to that area. Now on some of these smaller spaces, if you do find that that small flat brush is just too much, feel free to switch to that small pointy brush. It's okay to switch brushes, and if you're actually doing this painting quite large, feel free to grab and use larger brushes. And if you're new to these videos, welcome, thanks for painting. And what we utilize here is kind of the pause and observation. So every time I say take a progress photo and pause the video, I want you to look at the shapes of the spaces of color that I applied and come as close to those shapes as you can. And again, you're utilizing the power of observation as you paint. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable and the better you get at it. So again, utilizing the power of observation just kind of changes the way that you see things, and it will kind of be a fun learning process for you. All right, so even as I'm doing this, I'm actually kind of playing with that pressure of the brush, pushing it a little bit further, a little harder against the canvas to make that wider line. That kind of wider rim on our cat. All right. So still sticking with that light raw sienna color. If you have to make your color again because you didn't make enough, don't stress about it being the exact same shade. It could be a little lighter or darker. And as you saw there, I was moving the brush, kind of flicking it over that black line and over the background in the direction that the fur would be going. And it's kind of angled kind of to our left and going down. And again, with this being kind of transparent paint, feel free to use the paint a little bit thicker than you may feel comfortable with to give a little more coverage. And if you need to, feel free to give it a second layer, a second coat. All right, so now we're going to add a little bit of shadow. So I want you to grab a touch of that black, add it right on top of that light raw sienna mixture that you were using. And I'm going to bring mine back a little bit more raw sienna, so you can always add a touch and play with that color. But we're looking for a little bit of a shadow as we move on to the light colors on the back. Because again, this ocelot is moving towards us, or kind of stanced towards us. So his back would be in shadow compared to his head and chest that are a little bit closer to us. And here, just kind of keeping with a little dot or even little dash marks I am kind of pushing the brush pretty hard against the canvas so that way it makes a larger dot. And, you know, if you overlap some of those black spots, totally okay. You will kind of add those spots back on at the end of this painting, or towards the end of this painting. Kind of our goal right now is we're getting to the underpainting, and that's where we've covered all the canvas space with some form of paint. And then we will be putting a few layers on top of our underpainting. All right, and if you have any canvas showing through, just grab your color and kind of fill up that space. Now we're going to make it a little bit darker. Oh, still that same color. There we go. So a little bit darker and a little more black so we can do some shadows inside the ears. And again, just mixing right on top of the color we were just using. All right, again, these are little dots, maybe not pushing the brush as hard against the canvas. Little overlapping dots to create a larger shape. All right, so pause the video, take your progress photo. And we're going to make a light raw sienna. So I actually grabbed some white, moved it off kind of to another spot on my plate, and I'm adding raw sienna to it. And we are going a little bit darker than the color we were using 2 steps ago or 2 colors ago. And we don't want any gray into it, so that's why we're making a new pile. And again, we're making little dash marks or little dots. And try to think of the brush moving in the direction that the fur would be going on our cat. If you need to use the small pointy brush, feel free to switch down to that. And if you're overlapping some of those black spaces, don't worry about it. You guys are doing a great job. I'm proud of you for just even painting at home. Like I say in some of my other videos, it takes a lot of courage to paint at home. You're doing good. All right, maybe you're not even, hopefully you're painting with somebody else. Maybe they're painting along as well. It's a nice kind of experience to share together. And take a deep breath, even if you have been breathing, just kind of inhale and let any stress out. The cat's coming along very nicely. If you happen to be painting in kind of a swift manner, and you're moving from one shade of color to the next rather quickly without letting the paint dry, and if both shades are wet, you could actually blend the two together and kind of soften that gradient. So again, if you're painting rather fast, feel free to kind of give that a try. And really all you're going to do to blend them is just move your brush between the two. And again, kind of mind your pressure as they blend together. If you're not painting super fast and allowing each of these colors to dry in between, that creates a completely different style, and just embrace that. It's nice to have a variety of styles and methods to paint, and you only get to figure those out by trying them. So as you paint more, push yourself to paint a little bit faster so you can try the wet on wet blending. And if you're accustomed to painting really fast, maybe slow yourself down. Let the paint dry in between each section and try a new style that way. But I tell all my classes, there is no right or wrong way to paint. Just paint. Push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit and try things you don't always try. All right, so pause the video, take your progress photo, and we're going to be grabbing raw sienna. And I'm actually not cleaning my brush, still leaving the color that I was just using on there, and just grabbing the raw sienna. And we'll be filling in a good portion of the remaining space of our cat here. And again, just kind of keeping with those dots, overlapping. The raw sienna is, for the Liquitex, a little bit more on the transparent side. So feel free to paint it on there a little bit thicker than you may be comfortable with. And in this video, I will be doing a second round of the raw sienna to kind of make it a little bit more opaque. So we will be doing that. All right, so again, adding that raw sienna, using that small flat brush. If you want to use the small pointy brush, that will work just as well. All right. I do always like it when it is starting to almost have no white canvas space left. It just starts feeling better as a painting. If you've been sitting in front of your painting for a long time, I'm going to encourage that you get out of your chair, walk to the edge of the room, or walk a few feet behind your chair, and then turn around and look at your painting from a bit more of a distance compared to the distance you are painting from. And then just kind of assess. Most artwork is meant to be viewed from about 10 to 20 feet away. So while you paint, remember to continue to go back to that kind of vantage point and observe it from that distance that the viewers and your audience will be looking at the painting from. And then that's when we start making adjustments based on what we see from a distance. A tool to utilize when you take that picture with your cell phone. It's the same thing as stepping 20 feet away from your canvas without getting out of your chair. So again, just another tool to utilize as you go through the painting process and being able to look at it from different perspectives. So that's one of the reasons why the progress pictures are so important. All right, doing a good job. Take a deep breath for me, check in, see if you're holding your breath. Yeah, if you do have any white canvas space showing where the raw sienna is, just kind of cover that up with another brush stroke, another dot. All right, and I'm actually going back to the lighter raw sienna. I can grab right from the pile I was using prior, and just filling in the remaining space on our ocelot's forehead. Again, any white canvas space that you see, fill that in. We should only have the eyes, nose, and inner ears left to fill in. And smile at your painting. You're doing a great job. You're painting. And you're making good progress. All right, pause the video. Take your progress photo. We're going to use the small pointy brush. Actually, I think I've got the medium flat brush here. Sorry. We're going to make light pink. So again, take some white, add a touch of red to it to make your pink. You can adjust it to the shade of pink that you like. There we go. Now I'm holding the small pointy brush. All right, so we're going to fill in the space of the nose, and we are actually going to go over the black a little bit to kind of reshape that right side of the nose. There we go. Again, as you're doing some of these small little lines or small sections, keeping a light pressure on your brush and just using the tip of the brush to apply the paint. And again, you can apply it a little bit thicker to compensate for the black space underneath. All right, so I'm going to make this a little more earthy tone. So I took a little bit of raw sienna and mixed it in with that pink mixture. And we're going to fill in the inside of the ear. Nice. We're going to do a little bit around the mouth and a few spots around the eye. So again, at the point to pause the video, just pause it and just kind of take a look at the shape of the color that we were just using. It is one of the nice features about having a video. All right, so pause the video, take your progress photo. And we're actually going to be going back to raw sienna, and we're going to put that second coat on top of the raw sienna that we already put on our cat. So you can use your pointy brush or your small flat brush. And we're just going to take that straight raw sienna and go right on top of all the spaces we already did. Again, you can apply it a little bit thicker, just to get rid of some of the white of the canvas that's shining through. And it's almost like it's kind of building the thickness of the fur a little bit more. All right. Hopefully you're liking the second layer of our raw sienna. We're going to put a little bit on the back. If you happen to have the soft body paints, you can skip this step. And if your other colors were kind of transparent, feel free to grab or make that color again and give it a second layer. Pause the video and add as much as you need. So we're going back to a light raw sienna. And I'm actually making a new pile, as you can see here. And using the small pointy brush, we're going to go on the perimeter of the eye of our cat. Our ocelot has kind of light tan eyes. If you want to give your ocelot green eyes, feel free to switch the colors. And even on this one, I did overlap that black outline a little bit, so if you do as well, it's okay. Now we're taking that raw sienna and kind of filling in the rest of the eye to where the inside of the eye, the closest part to the pupil, is a little bit darker than the outside of the eye. And to blend these two, you can wipe your brush off on the paper towel to remove all the paint, and then just use a dry brush to move between the two colors. You can also kind of try using your fingers as well, or your little pinky. It's kind of nice to do that and just feel the paint on your hands. And if you need to reapply the darker or lighter shade, feel free to do that. And if you're doing a green eye on your cat, you would have the darker green on the inside, closer to the pupil, and lighter green on the outside. All right, so I grabbed some white, kind of put it on the perimeter again to lighten that area. And then I wiped my brush off, and using a dry brush, I'm just using light pressure on top of the paint, so that way it kind of lightly blends together. This will get more comfortable the more that you practice. Be nice to yourself as you're going through these, especially if you're a first-time painter. All right, so we're going to take a medium gray, and that's going to take some white with a touch of black. And we're going to fill in kind of that left corner of the eye, basically the last remaining white space. Oh, almost the last remaining white space. That little catch light on the eye should still be canvas. But we're taking our medium gray, we're adding a few little sections around the eye, around the nose, and in the mouth area. So again, utilize that pause section to see where I placed this color. And if you place it in a slightly different area, that's okay. Embrace it. This is your painting. All right, our underpainting is complete. So pause the video, take your progress photo, and we're going to go into black paint. we're going to go back and do those outlines. And again, we're using our small pointy brush. You can add a touch of water to your black paint to make it a little bit more fluid. A little bit kind of flows a little bit better with the brush. Keep in mind, you never want your brush dripping wet with paint. So a little bit of water gives you that flow. But again, never too much. If you're not quite sure where all those lines are again, obviously you can check the video or even go back to your Traceable and take a look where all those are. The only place I will not be outlining is going to be that chest area where we had the fluff of the fur overlapping that black line. If you happen to outline yours, again, it's okay. That's what makes your painting unique. So I'm going back over those dots, and this time I am kind of overlapping it and using light pressure so that way it has a bit of a feathered effect as it overlaps the other colors. And again, here we're moving the brush in the direction of the fur and making these little dash marks. And these cats are known for their spots, so we do want to make this kind of intense and make these black areas rather bold. So as you're doing this, if it kind of reshapes to different spots or stripes than I'm doing on mine, again, that just makes your cat unique. All right, take a deep breath. You're doing great. It's nice to just paint, and hopefully you're forgetting that there's other people out in the world or that there's other stuff, and you're just, this is your zone. Nice. All right, guys, you're doing a great job. Keep going. Don't stop until you've done all the black areas, your outlines, your spots. And then I want you to get out of your chair, walk 20 feet away and turn around and look at it from that distance. These are looking really good. And there's going to be some sections here that I add extra spots. Again, feel free to add them to your content. Change the shape if you want a heart-shaped spot in there, or maybe it spells out somebody's initials. Give that a try. My students in class tell me I give them too many options sometimes. That's why you get to paint these a couple of times and try those different options. Whatever you do, just keep painting, keep finding your creative outlets. They're so good for so many aspects of your life. All right, take your progress photo, pause the video. Maybe not necessarily in that order. And we're going to go back to an extremely, very, very light raw sienna. So again, I'm starting with that white, small, pointy brush, adding a little bit of raw sienna, and we're going to put our highlights on the chin and on the chest and around the top parts of the head of our cat. Again, as you're in the chest area, these brush strokes are moving in the direction of the fluff, and they are overlapping that original black line that we did at the beginning. If you end up kind of even using pure white for this area, if you're painting on the lighter side to begin with and you still need something that's to pop more, feel free to use your pure white for this step. And here we go. Now I'm using pure white. I'm going to kind of get that fluff on the perimeter of the ear. Again, these are kind of just dash marks, little flick of my wrist. If yours are dots, if yours kind of overlap the black outline. Again, that's just your style. Painting is like handwriting. Everybody's got their own style. And everybody is their own worst critic. So don't listen to your brain as you paint, just paint. All right, so still using that pointy brush, moving into the highlights or the light spaces around the eyes. And again, around the nose, on those little cheeks. And even here, I'm just doing little dots that kind of overlap each other to create a larger space. I'm going to put a highlight on the nose. All right, and if you did paint over that catch light or didn't paint on it at all, you're going to take white paint and that catch light that overlaps the pupil. You can either fill that back in or just put the dot back on there, and you can reference your traceable to see the exact position. Going back to that light raw sienna again. And again, sometimes you'll find that maybe you make the color on your plate, and then when you apply it to the canvas, it looks totally different. So feel free to adjust your colors and your mixtures as you're painting. What you're witnessing is actually a little bit of color theory. We interpret a color based on the color that's next to it, and that's why it may look one shade on your plate, but when you apply it to your canvas next to another color, it looks entirely different. And many artists, we spend our entire careers just playing with the color theory and how it affects us and affects our viewers. All right, so still that super light raw sienna. I'm just going back and touching up some spaces where I can see the canvas and kind of getting a little bit more shaping around the nose. As we're doing all of this, trust your instincts. If you feel like putting the color somewhere where I don't, trust that. Give it a try. If you end up not liking it, just let it dry and paint another color on top of it. That's why acrylic paint is a really good medium to work with, and why you can trust your instincts with it quite a bit. Because that's how you're going to learn more and learn kind of what you're capable of with the tools in front of you. All right, so pause the video, take your progress photo, and now we're going to do the last step. We're going to do the whiskers. And I do recommend for my first time painters to grab a silver Sharpie marker or a white Sharpie marker. And it's going to be just kind of a flick of the wrist. Practice on your tablecloth or a scrap sheet of paper before you do it on your painting. It's kind of hard to take the Sharpie marker off. You'll actually see in this video to where I paint over a whisker I don't like. You can always do that, so it's always fixable. And again, it's just a flick of the wrist. And I'm keeping this painting, because it's for the video, in the same direction. If you need to turn your painting upside down to do this, go right ahead. Do what you can to make it a little bit more comfortable for yourself. That was that whisker that I'm going to be painting over. And again, if you're not quite sure on the whiskers and you don't quite like the placement of where I put mine, feel free to Google an image of an Ocelot cat. You may actually see the reference one that I took this painting from. And just kind of see how thick their whiskers are and the direction that they go. And if you're like me and you made a whisker way too long, go back to your paint and just put that color right on top of it. So here I'm kind of putting that black spot back on and then going back to the raw sienna to cover up the fur. Like I said, if you make a mistake in art, you just paint on top of it or you work it into the composition. And Bob Ross totally had it right. Happy accidents. you end up liking some of those crazy things that happen. All right, so I hope you guys like your cats. They turned out great. I'm really thrilled that you painted with me today, and I look forward to painting with you in the future. Have a great day. Hey guys, I hope your cats turned out really nice. Please tag me as you're uploading these to social media because I really want to see how you're doing at home. I want to see your progress, the things that you keep on painting. So tag me, Paint with Lovejoy, and the link should be popping up on the video here, the hashtags popping up. Again, I like to see your progress and what you're doing, so give me some feedback. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. Leave comments and feedback. Let me know other things that you want me to paint. Let me know some of your successes and maybe some of your frustrations with painting so that way I can continue to help you. With that being said, you only get better the more that you practice. So keep painting. Try different things, switch out colors, check out some of the other really awesome YouTube painting tutorials that are on here. But above all else, keep painting. Your soul and your sanity really need it. I think that kind of takes care of it. Thank you so much for painting with me today. I look forward to painting with you in the future, and have a great day. Cheers. Hey guys, how are you doing today? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks for joining me. Let's try that again. We're gonna wait for the plane again. I had to choose the time to apparently when it was high traffic. All right, so subscribers and nope. So check that out. Check out the planes that are passing.